What is synchronicity? So synchronicity is a term coined by Jung to describe events that are related by deep meaning, not necessarily cause and effect. So they're experiences that don't seem like coincidences. They mean something to the individual who's experiencing them. For example, one of my favorite synchronicities to share is a long time ago, I was really depressed and I was sad and I was searching for meaning in my life, and I was in a rough place. And I remember one time, a friend had invited me out and it was late, 10 p.m. And I was like, no, I don't really want to go. But then I kept feeling this urge that I had to leave the house. So I get into this car and a voice, again, something in me tells me, talk to the Uber driver. And I'm just feeling something nagging at me. And so I go, so I brought up his name and I'm like, oh, you have an interesting name. Where are you from? And from that, the conversation turned into this very profound conversation. It went really deep, really quickly. He was a young man who had lived in India. He was Armenian, and he was Ubering to save up for a vegan restaurant. And he told me, my life changed when I read this book called The Alchemist. And I thought, oh, really? Okay. He's like, have you read it? And I'm like, yes, I've read it in middle school. And he's like, no, you need to read it again. And something about the way he said you need to read it again felt very meaningful to me. So I did read the book and I was absolutely blown away. And I could understand why he had referred to The Alchemist as his Bible, because all the signs, what it means to follow signs, to hear messages, to meet the right people at the right time, it was all in that book. And that, for me, was a very meaningful, synchronistic moment when someone was giving me a book that I needed to answer all the questions and all the turmoil in my mind. Another really quick one was I was at a car dealership and a gentleman, he was Iranian, he and I started conversing, just talking, small talk, and then suddenly he goes, have you read the Celestine Prophecy? You look like you would love that book. And I'm like, okay. So I go home and I read that book, and it was the book that taught me about energy and energy vampires and so much more. But it really changed my perspective. Before I became spiritual, I come from a Muslim background, and I was always kind of religious, even though my family wasn't. But I stepped away from Islam and for some time, but I had this it stays with you. And long story short, I remember being really confused. And these books, the Celestine Prophecy, The Alchemist, The Untethered Soul, The Outliers, You Are the Universe by Deepak Chopra, they really changed my perspective and opened the door for me to understand what spirituality means. And, it changed my perspective on religion and the direction of my life. And so I'm a huge, reader, and I always say, a book can do so much for someone's soul. But yeah, synchronicity is all about, getting the right messages at the right time. And it's just not a coincidence. You meet the right person or something happens and it feels like a message. It feels like the universe is speaking to you. Make sense?